Western North Carolina is grappling with the widespread devastation left behind from Helene. In Buncombe County alone, more than 90,000 customers are still without power, and at least 30 people have been killed in Buncombe County. That's because of flooding from Helene, as well as 2 sheriff's deputies being a part of that. Today, Governor Roy Cooper will join other state leaders as well as FEMA officials in Nashville to assess the storm damage and the response efforts. Let's bring in WRAL's Brett Neese. He is in Asheville this morning, and specifically you're at Biltmore Village. Tell me a little bit about what it just looks behind there with you, Brett, and the destruction that's happened.
Yeah, Chris, now that the sun is up, we are getting our first look at some of the catastrophic damage here behind me in the downtown area, Biltmore Village. It's unbelievable to see. I'm going to turn around and kind of just describe it for you. This historic Biltmore Village sign right here at the entrance to this district, all of that debris scattered around it. You see some of the debris just hanging in the trees. It's unbelievable to look at when you first get a glimpse at this in person. And as we zoom in down this main stretch, there's just pile after pile of debris that they have cleaned up and essentially just put together so that someone at some point can haul off into another area and get it out of here. But at this point, this is what it looks like. And as we zoom back out, you see the roadway itself is still covered in mud. They've actually done their best to clean off as much mud as they can. And then you see this large barrel right here that is not supposed to be there. It is unbelievable that the amount of water that rushed through this area was able to carry that massive barrel, wedge it right there between that tree and that lamppost. We talked to one resident here in this area who says that she's a longtime resident, and it is such a unique place that they are able to identify what debris goes to which bar or restaurant. Take a listen.
All over the river, you can identify which brewery, which shop, which winery, plebe. You can tell as you look at the wreckage.
And there's about 15,000 technicians in this part of the country, in this part of the state, trying to get power back on as quickly as possible. It will take weeks, if not months, to clean this up. Live in Asheville, Brett Neese, WRAL News.
And Jeff Hogan in the WRAL Live Center. And Brett showed you the ground view there. I want to give you a look at some drone footage. We just got into the WRAL newsroom from NBC Network here. This is in Asheville. This is showing the unprecedented devastation that local folks are talking about there. And it's showing the flooding just wiped out parts of one of our state's most popular tourist towns there. Folks are struggling, as Brett said, to get fuel and food and clean water, and it's just saturated the entire central Appalachian region here. As you look at some of this video here, the river on the left and then a road right there down the middle, it's hard to tell the difference between the two there. Big picture across several states, there are more than 2 million customers without electricity from this storm. We are also getting our first estimates of damage and economic loss from the entire storm, all states included in this. AccuWeather puts the number between $145 and $160 billion in damage.
So overwhelming to see that. Thanks, Jeff. Well, people here in the Triangle are chipping in to help their neighbors to the west, and WRAL's Laura Levine gives us a look at the truckloads of supplies going out and how you can help.
Volunteers here at Apex Baptist Church loaded up 3 trucks this morning with cases of water just like this. Water is such a dire and critical need in Western North Carolina, and that's where they're headed. So you can see them gathering here dark and early as they were loading up the trailers attached to those trucks. The church was full of supplies this morning, ready to be delivered. The lead pastor here tells me he felt called upon yesterday during his sermon to ask for water donations, and before the service ended, they became overwhelmed with that support. In a briefing Sunday, officials said hundreds of thousands of residents may not have access to water for weeks in Western North Carolina due to major infrastructure damage to dozens of water plants. Lead pastor Zab Cook, who is from Florida and recently experienced Hurricane Michaels back in 2018, he tells me he knows firsthand what these people are dealing with.
When you don't have access to clean drinking water, man, you really begin to panic. You begin to think, okay, what are we going to do? And there's so many families, they have they have no way to get out of where they are. So the need for clean drinking water and then not having the ability to get to any type of water is so tragic.
So they plan to head to Hendersonville today at a distribution site there. Then they are going to partner with the North Carolina Baptist on a mission to find other distribution sites in areas they can access safely in western North Carolina. They will make a second delivery on Thursday. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Apex.
And this morning, there are still more than 450,000 customers without power statewide. Most of those outages are focused in the western part of our state. Teams are working all day just to try to restore power, but it could be a while before some see their electricity return. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey has been at the Duke Energy headquarters in Raleigh this morning and has the latest in the restoration efforts.
There's just an overwhelming number of people who are still without power. Crews here from Duke Energy are working to get the job done. Utility crews from across the country are headed towards western North Carolina. More than 450,000 customers are still without power in our state. Roughly 90,000 of them are in Buncombe County. It could be days before customers can get back on the grid. Landslides and washouts are pushing back that timeline. Restoring power for hospitals, schools, and essential services are priority number one.
And many of those, as you get into western North Carolina and into the higher elevations, are very difficult to access and in some case involve severely damaged or destroyed infrastructure that will have to be rebuilt.
That was Jeff Brooks with Duke Energy. Several homes that you saw there covered in floodwater will have to be repaired before crews can work to restore power. So this is really a long road ahead for all of these families that have been impacted. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Raleigh. Both presidential candidates spoke about the destruction Helene left behind in western North Carolina. Harris offered her condolences last night during a rally in Las Vegas.
And with these communities for as long as it takes to make sure that they are able to recover and rebuild.
And former President Donald Trump also gave his condolences during a rally yesterday in Erie, Pennsylvania.
In particular, western North Carolina took a tremendous hit. It's been absolutely devastated, and God be with you all.
Both the Trump and Harris campaigns have made stops in western North Carolina during their campaign runs. Long lines fill the lot. Ken, thank you. Drivers in western North Carolina are on the hunt for gas. Long lines like this one right here on your screen can be seen at stations that have fuel, while other stations are out. That's because of disruptions from Helene. North Carolina's price gouging law is in effect right now. Keep that in mind. The State Department of Justice has a consumer protection phone line, and that's open right now. The number is 1-877-5-NO-SCAM, or you can visit the Department of Justice website.
People in our area are getting together to help out the western part of our state devastated by Helene. Anderson Automotive Group's Raleigh dealerships loaded up 3 vehicles and trailers with supplies. When the curfew is lifted this morning, they will be taken to Asheville.
We started hearing about what kind of terrible shape our folks were in up in the mountains. We've got maybe 300 employees up in the Asheville area, and a lot of them are in dire straits, no power, no cell phones, some of them no homes, no clothes, no blankets, access to food, the grocery stores are empty. So, you know, all these guys rallied.
That's amazing.